Welcome to this presentation on developing SMART goals. This presentation is designed for school leadership team members, school leaders, teachers, parents, and any other members of the school community who are involved in developing the school's Comprehensive Education Plan, or CEP. My name is Will Manicus, and I am Senior Director of State Federal Program Implementation and Field Support within the Division of School Leadership. Let's take a look at our objectives for this webinar. First, we'll review our commitment to continuous improvement, that is, making our schools better. Then, we'll briefly discuss the overall role of goal setting as it drives school improvement. After that, we'll take a deeper look at what elements come together to make a goal SMART. Finally, we'll discuss some strategies for using data wisely in order to create goals that are rigorous, representing significant improvement for the school, but still attainable, just right goals. Chancellor David C. Banks has shared the 5 system-wide priorities for New York City public schools, and these ideas are at the core of the work all schools do. The first is ensuring all students learn to read well. We must foster a system-wide culture of literacy to achieve higher levels of proficiency for our students. The second is that all students are physically and emotionally safe. This includes implementing best practices for safety and security, expanding social-emotional support, improving attendance practices, and expanding physical and mental wellness supports. The third priority is that all students have a high-quality academic experience. This requires us to strengthen core instruction, as well as the programs that serve our multilingual learners and students with disabilities, along with elevating arts and civics to reimagine school and re-engage our students. The fourth priority is that all students graduate college and career ready and have a strong plan and pathway to economic security. For our high school students, this means expanding career pathways and college and career advising, as well as providing opportunities to earn college credit and industry credentials. For our younger students, it means expanding access to advanced Regents coursework, specialized high school exam prep, exposure to careers, and supporting a college-going culture from an early age. The fifth priority is redesigning the system to be more inclusive and responsive for parents and families, including having more families choose New York City public schools. This speaks to deeply engaging with families to better understand their needs, building community trust, bolstering engagement, improving language access, and ultimately, increasing family engagement and participation. These 5 priorities set the vision for New York City public schools at the system-wide level, and districts and schools will align their goal setting to these priorities. All of this work requires authentic engagement from the very beginning, and the best way to engage families and your school leadership team in the CEP development process is to seek their thoughts, ideas, and opinions as you develop SMART goals for the 2023-24 school year. Your school community's thoughts and ideas around each of the 5 priorities will live in your CEP. Meaningful engagement in this process requires us to study, return to, and adjust the CEP so that it becomes the roadmap for your school's success. When we specifically think about continuous improvement regarding the CEP, we think about the 4 steps of the plan, do, study, act, or PDSA cycle. First, we plan. What is it that we are trying to improve, and what strategies will we choose? Next, we do, actually implementing the plan as it was designed. Then, we study. How well are we doing? It's important to monitor both implementation and interim results. Then ask, are we on track to meet our annual goal? Finally, we act. Based on what we've learned, what do we need to adjust in our strategy? The PDSA cycle is our framework for continuous improvement. Here is a brief overview of the CEP development process. First, we identify the priority areas, which, new for this year, align to the Chancellor's 5 system-wide priorities. Unlike previous years, where elementary and middle schools responded to different areas of concentration than high schools, this year, all schools will engage in educational planning aligned to the same system-wide priorities. Schools should begin by reviewing the priorities, which are detailed on slide 3 of this presentation. The iPlan portal, which can be accessed at iplanportal.com, is the collaborative online platform for educational planning, and it automatically displays the priorities. Step 2 is engaging in a comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis, resulting in the identification of priority needs and root causes. That needs assessment is used to develop SMART goals in Step 3, which is the focus of this session. The next steps will be covered in depth during other webinar modules, but to give a brief preview here, Step 4 is to set progress monitoring targets that will keep the school on track toward achieving its annual goals. Step 5 is to create progressive action steps that address the root causes identified. Step 6 emphasizes the importance of engaging family and community stakeholders by incorporating strategies that empower families and the wider community. Step 7, which is the final step in CEP development, is to align budgetary resources to the goal, making sure that they're allocated in a way that supports the school achieving its annual goal. When we discuss continuous improvement at the school level, goal setting is critical, and here's why. It clarifies the impact that the school wants to have on its students. It unites the larger school community together toward a shared aim. It helps the school focus its activities. As a school community, you want to spend as much time as possible on those activities which specifically drive you toward achieving your goal. And it sets a bar. It provides an objective measure to understand annual progress. Finally, setting goals anchors your plan in student performance. What is your school's North Star? A goal, if done right, can serve that purpose, ensuring that your planning process is driving toward an end result of improved student outcomes. You've probably heard of SMART goals, but what does that mean? SMART is an acronym describing how the goal is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Let's take a closer look at these features on the next slide. Let's take a deeper look at what makes SMART goals SMART. They are specific, which means they are responsive to your school's overall needs, as determined in Step 2, engaging in a needs assessment. They are measurable, so we know exactly what success looks like, and we can assess progress along the way. They are attainable in that they represent appropriate gains from your baseline or starting point, given the school's most recent data. They are relevant in that they respond to areas that require strengthening and are system-wide priorities. Finally, they are timely and represent an appropriate lever of change for your school. We've included a sample goal here on this slide that includes these elements. School leadership teams can use the following process to ensure that they are engaging in an authentic needs assessment to develop their SMART goals. Always begin by engaging stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and students. Be sure to consider the supports for any identified or high needs subgroups. Then review multiple data sources related to each priority. These may include instructional leadership framework, supportive environment framework, or New York State Education Department's Tenet 1 Systems and Structures inventories. Review qualitative and quantitative data, internal, external, and survey data, ESSA accountability data, and State Education Department or New York City DOE support visits. Next, identify trends that highlight areas of need. These may include gaps between high and low performing subgroups, grades, or cohorts, or evidence of inequities within school practices. Then, identify root causes to determine why these areas of need exist. After engaging in root cause analysis, select the highest impact priority need and develop a SMART goal that responds to the need. As we mentioned earlier, the CEP helps SLTs address inequities across our system. This means taking a hard look at how we teach all students, including those who require additional support to reach their objectives. The SMART Goal Builder in iPlan allows SLTs to set subgroup-specific goals if they choose to do so. This could be an excellent opportunity for a school to demonstrate its commitment to improving outcomes for students with disabilities, multilingual learners, students in temporary housing, including migrant students and those seeking asylum, students in foster care, or any other subgroup of students with a common need for additional support. Once you select a priority and complete the Needs Assessment section, you'll be brought to the SMART Goal Builder in iPlan, which guides you through a set of questions that address all of the elements we discussed on Slide 8, ensuring goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. The SMART Goal Builder will combine the responses to the questions into a draft SMART goal. We want to emphasize that this is a draft SMART goal. While the Goal Builder is a good tool, it cannot account for every possibility, so we've made sure that school users can edit the goal as needed. In addition, schools can create up to 3 SMART goals for any priority. They are required to develop at least one goal for each priority, as well as chronic absenteeism and quality IEP. Principals should also check in with their superintendent and district team to ensure alignment with district-wide priorities and initiatives as well. As you begin to dive into each priority and reflect on your needs and root causes, consider the following ideas as you select goal metrics. First, consider those that best align to the student needs that have been identified. If a glaring need exists in a particular content area or for a specific subgroup, make sure your SMART goal addresses that need. Also consider measures that are published in the School Quality Guide, available online at tools.nycenet.edu, tools.nicenet.edu, and or ESSA metrics, which are available at data.nysed.gov. In addition to student needs, also consider any targeted areas of school-wide need. As an example, if writing is an area of focus, consider a metric that specifically measures writing skills. Finally, please remember that your CEP SMART goals are for your school community, so be sure to select metrics that are understood by all of the stakeholders across your school community. And if they're not, consider it a learning opportunity. During the pandemic, we convened a working group to develop guidance for schools on which metrics might be best used to guide goal setting in the absence of state standardized testing. As we emerge from COVID times and transition back to our new normal, we have built upon that work by suggesting some potential goal measures, as well as potential progress monitoring measures that align to each of the Chancellor's priorities. These are not meant to limit SLTs and school teams in their selection of goal measures, but rather to provide a starting point for conversation. There are certainly other appropriate measures not listed on this slide. We also recognize that determining the most appropriate measures for elementary and middle schools as related to Priority 4, college and career readiness, may be uniquely challenging, and we'll explore that in more depth on the next slide. As stakeholders involved in supporting children's education, we can all agree that the pathway to college and career readiness and economic security begins at a very early age. In recognition of that, we are requiring all schools, including elementary and middle schools, to address Priority 4. All students graduate college and career ready and have a strong plan and pathway to economic security. We have brainstormed around some potential summative annual goal measures, including those that measure access to and success in advanced Regents level coursework for middle school students, career advising activities, access to specialized high school preparation courses, as well as relevant questions from the New York City School Survey for students, families, and educators that assess family satisfaction with the education their child has received, how well students are being prepared for the next school level, or how well schools are preparing students to be financially literate. We also included links toward the bottom of this slide that include research on college and career readiness in elementary schools, a worksheet and crosswalk illustrating the connections between academic and personal behaviors and the Danielson Framework for Teaching, and links to the New York City School Survey instruments that can inform both goal setting as well as progress monitoring. In the not-so-distant past, schools that were identified for improvement by the New York State Education Department, that is, schools identified for receivership, comprehensive support and improvement, CSI, additional targeted support and improvement, ATSI, or targeted support and improvement, TSI, had very little flexibility when it came to goal setting. Prior to the pandemic, these schools were instructed to use measures of interim progress, or MIPS, on their ESSA metrics for the majority of their goal measures and targets. In recognizing that the CEP should be meaningful and valuable to the school community, and that it should be a reflection of the school community's commitments, values, and aspirations, we have shifted to a goal-setting model that allows more flexibility and ensures that schools set goals aligned to their unique improvement efforts. So, identified schools may develop new SMART goals for 2023-24 using appropriate measures and goal targets aligned to each of the chancellor's priorities based on data collected during the 2022-23 school year and informed by SED's 5-part needs assessment process linked on this slide. Our receivership schools should consider how their demonstrable improvement indicators, or DIIs, can inform their annual SMART goals. Finally, principals of schools identified for receivership, CSI, ATSI, or TSI, should be prepared to discuss how and why each goal is important to their school community, how it will support school improvement, and how the needs assessment process, including the envisioning, analyzing, and listening activities, brought the school to this goal. As was the case last year, these conversations will be part of New York State's CEP approval process for schools identified for CSI, Comprehensive Support and Improvement. Once your SLT has drafted its SMART goals, it can be very valuable to engage in a quality assurance process. We recommend asking the following reflection questions as part of that process. If the measurement tool does not align well with the priority, consider revising it to better align with the relevant priority. Additionally, the team should be able to talk through how the target was set. What data points were used to inform setting the target? How did the SLT strike the balance between rigor and attainability? Discussing these questions will help solidify everyone's understanding of the school's SMART goals. We've spent most of this webinar looking at how to develop SMART goals. As we start to wrap up, let's look at SMART goals within the context of the educational planning process. This chart, along with the one on the next slide, shows examples aligned to each of the Chancellor's priorities and illustrates the coherence or through line of the process. Each sample begins by stating a priority need, informed by data trends, resulting in the identification of root causes. The sample SMART goal measures are responsive to the priority needs, and the goal targets are informed by the data trends. The next element on this chart is to develop action steps that address the root causes. And the next step in the overall educational planning process is to set progress measures and targets. Note that this slide includes a sample goal for priorities 1, 2, and 3. We'll take a look at priorities 4 and 5 as well as chronic absenteeism on the next slide. This slide provides sample priority needs, data trends, root causes, and sample goals aligned to priority 4, priority 5, and the system-wide focus area of chronic absenteeism. It mirrors the same structure as the previous slide. In previous sessions, we looked at the overview of the CEP development process, then unpacked Step 2, engaging in a needs assessment. During this session, we took a deep exploration into Step 3, developing SMART goals. You and your team should now be ready to move to Step 4, setting progress measures and targets that are aligned to your SMART goals. Please note some of the key dates for CEP development in the timeline on this slide. We encourage you to circle June 16th on your calendar, as this is the deadline for schools to submit their draft CEPs, and July 8th, which is the deadline for principals to complete the online budget attestation. Schools will receive feedback over the summer and finalize their plans in the fall. After superintendent approval, plans will be publicly posted on the iPlan portal and on school web pages on a rolling basis. As always, we encourage you to reach out to your Director of State Federal Program Implementation, or DSFP, for any questions or to continue the conversation around educational planning. For technical assistance with iPlan, please email iplan@schools.nyc.gov. These links are also included in the description below. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar, and we wish you a successful end to the school year and a productive planning cycle for the 2023-24 school year. We would love to hear your feedback on these webinar sessions. Please take a few minutes to let us know how we're doing, what we can do better, and what you'd like us to include in future sessions by completing the short survey via the link or QR code on this slide. Please note that the link and QR code both lead to the same survey, so you only need to do one or the other, not both. Thank you again for your time, and please reach out with any questions or concerns.